welcome to my desk. My name is Keon, and today I'm going to be doing some drawings of some famous slashers. So I started thinking about slashers last week when I did a video about Psycho, and I talked a lot about how influential that movie was for the genre. And it just made me start thinking about other famous slashers. So, since it's still spooky season, I thought it'd be nice to draw Michael Myers from Halloween, Jason from Friday the 13th, and Ghostface from Scream. Obviously, there's a lot of other famous ones, but those are the three that really stick out for me. So, let's get started. Okay, so I'm gonna do this in chronological order. So the first movie to come out was Halloween, and this came out in 1978. And this is the one that's really credited as the most influential slasher. It created or popularized a lot of famous tropes from the genre, like the final girl, which is what it sounds like, the morality killings, which is like a lot of the kids that end up going first are doing drugs or having sex or whatever, along with the POV shots of the killer, which is like something we see a lot in other movies, and the theme music. There's a lot of things. And Michael Myers was a patient at a mental hospital that he was sent to after killing his sister at like 6 years old. And he was there for like 10, 12 years. No, maybe more. But he escapes on Halloween. And he goes back to his hometown and he starts to stalk and kill teenagers. His main focus is Jamie Lee Curtis's character, Laurie. And this was actually Jamie Lee Curtis's first movie. And she's the final girl, so she does come back in other movies. Not all of them. And after the sequel, they were thinking about turning the series into an anthology series. So Michael Myers isn't in the third one, and it's all new characters. But after that movie didn't do very well, they just brought him back. And with each team that took the helm, they did different things with the story, and they even retconned certain details of the story, which can be confusing, but I think it's interesting because in some of the movies, Laurie's character is his sister, Michael Myers' sister, and in some of them she's not. There's also a bunch of other details that they changed depending on who was making it. But yeah, there's like 10 movies or something crazy like that, so they had to do something. I do really like these movies. The music, even if you haven't seen this movie, you know the music because it's that iconic. And the original director, John Carpenter, also did the music, so he definitely had a vision. And even though the movie wasn't really well received in the beginning, it's looked back on as one of the best slashers or horrors of all time. So, I gotta thank it for that. But as much as I like that movie, I think my favorite franchise is probably Friday the 13th. And that's not interesting, but I guess a little bit ironic because this movie was really thought of as like a cash grab because the producers really wanted something just to capitalize on the success of Halloween. So they asked some writers to create something similar. And it is in a lot of ways, but I find them more fun, more exciting. They don't take themselves too seriously, and I don't know, they're cheap thrills in a way, but I think that's kind of what I want from a scary movie. So that's just why I love the Friday the 13th movies, and they just get progressively more and more insane with each sequel. And I haven't seen them all, but I think they're just really great. Especially the one where he goes to New York, which is just crazy. But most of them are set in a camp setting. Jason was like a camper that drowned one year, and he just comes back for revenge. And this version that I'm drawing here of Jason doesn't actually appear until the third movie. I know that it's the most well-known version of him though, so that's kind of why I chose to draw him with this hockey mask. But you don't actually see him at all in the first one. And in the sequel he does wear a mask, but it's like a sack, like a burlap sack that he wears with a hole cut out for the eye. And then in the third one I think he finds this mask somewhere. And like I said, it's set at camp, and there is a final girl in the first one that survives, but then she dies like at the beginning of the second one in a really crazy way. So that's not similar to Halloween in that sense, but I actually watched this one last night and it was really, really fun, the first one. I guess I won't tell you, but in the first one there's a bit of a twist, and then it just becomes more about, there's less twists in the lighter movies. And it's also just like, yeah, fun, sexy, like the counselors are always like having wild parties and stuff. I don't know. There is also like theme music for this, but it's not really music so much as like an echoey sound. And Jason is not like a mental, he basically just grew up on his own in the woods, so I don't think he can even speak. Like he's kind of like a feral creature that doesn't really have any logic or sense. He just wants to kill, which is really scary, but it can also play to the advantage of the campers or whoever. because they can trick and fool him. But yeah, he's huge, very strong, so it doesn't always work. So yeah, now I'm gonna do Ghostface from Scream. And Scream is really different from the first two in the sense that it's kind of like meta. It's the slasher genre with a twist. It's very self-referential, very jokey. And I think when they were writing it, it's a Wes Craven movie, or the first four were directed and written, I think, by Wes Craven. It came at a time that was it was very of its time in the sense that things were very meta. And in this one, the killer actually talks to his victims on the phone, which is something you don't really see in the other two that I just talked about. He uses like a voice changer though, so you don't recognize him. He's always someone that the main cast knows. That's also someone he always changes to, like the killer is usually revealed at the end of every movie, and then the next one it's someone else. But they all have the same voice on the phone, and they all wear this Ghostface costume. I talked also about how the first one specifically, they brought on Drew Barrymore, who was the biggest star in the movie at the time. And she was like thought of as meant to be like the main character, but she dies first, which I think was a really, really smart move on the marketer's part, or just like a nice little surprise. I talked about how this was likely inspired by Psycho, because this also happens in Psycho, where they kind of like bury the lead. Yeah, so these movies were really well received, almost all of them, and I liked them, but sometimes the meta jokes and stuff can, I think, be a bit much, or like maybe they take it a bit too far. But when they were writing it, the working title for the movie was Scary Movie, which is funny because then later there was the parody movie, Scary Movie, which really heavily parodies Scream, ironically enough. But yeah, I do think that it's nice. It's fresh take on the genre, and that's why I included it in this series, because it was kind of like the natural progression in a way. Here you have them, all three next to each other. So that's it. Alright, so that's it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a comment and let me know how you feel about slashers or these movies or whatever. And I will see you in the next one.